Alrighty, hello everyone, welcome into another modern Magic the Gathering video. We're going to be trying out a similar list to what I had tested out a few weeks ago with Lurrus Jund. This is the original list that I was playing, or a variation of the original list. I swapped out Ragavans to test this off stream over the Ignoble Hierarchs, and this list performed okay. I'm going to try out something new today with we're sort of going more in the style of Boomer Jund, as people call it, with Liliana the Veil, Bloodbraid Elf, things like that. I am taking an interesting approach to this deck, I would say, in the sense that I am choosing not to play any discard spells. I am playing 3 copies of Tourach, and I'm playing 4 Liliana the Veil, but and the 1 Kroxa. So I do have cards that discard cards, including Kolaghan's Command as well. So I have cards that make my opponent discard cards, but personally for me, I feel like these decks that want to play these 1-drops on turn 1 in the form of Ragavan, Ignoble Hierarch, and then you've got 7 1-mana removal spells, it's really, really hard to also fit in 6 1-mana discard spells in the form of, you know, usually it's like 4 Inquisitions, 2 Thoughtseize, that sort of thing. It's really, really hard to fit that all together and also be playing some amount of powerful top-in. So instead of playing like this 1-mana interaction that is like somewhat powerful sometimes, I should probably be queuing. Hang on one second. Let me go ahead and start the queue up so we're not waiting around for a match. So yeah, but instead of playing this 1-mana interaction in the form of a 1-mana discard spell, I'm choosing to spend my turn 1 either playing an Ignoble Hierarch or a Ragavan and using that to my advantage to propel me towards these more powerful plays. Dauthi Voidwalker, Tourach, Cantor, Bloodbraid Elf, and Liliana the Veil, you know, sort of having some amount of acceleration towards these seems better than just playing 1-mana interaction that's sometimes good and sometimes not. So another thing that I'll note is that right now in the current metagame, I do not think that 1-mana discard spells are in a good spot anyways. So that's another reason why I'm choosing to cut them. Not only are they like sort of awkward on curve with your 1-drops that you want to be playing that are really powerful from Modern Horizons 2, but they're also just not very good anymore. At least not in this current metagame. I feel like if you play against Affinity, the Affinity decks pretty typically just like dump their whole hand into play on turn 1. And Inquisition of Kozilek doesn't hit half their hand anyways. Like they're usually like all of their cards are Affinity for 7 or just like cheap dumb creatures that mostly hit the board in the first turn or 2. And so like Inquisition just whiffs half the time. So if you play against the Green Black Asmora deck, it's sort of a similar principle, but there's not really any way to like poke holes in their hands most of the time. That deck is very redundant, and what it does, it just like has 8 copies of Asmora. It has, you know, 4 copies of the Underworld Cookbook, and then Asmora obviously finds another copy of the Underworld Cookbook, so the deck is pretty redundant, and like once you put stuff in their graveyard, it kind of just doesn't matter, like they're just gonna pick it back up anyways. You know, it like, you can like Thoughtseize them, and then if you like take a cat, it's like, you know, most of the time they're just like, okay, yeah, you took the cat out of my hand. Like you can like Thoughtseize them on turn 1, take a goose, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, you took my goose, whatever. And it's just like they just proceed to keep doing what they're doing, you know. So, yeah, I just don't feel like discard spells in general are particularly great right now. So that's why I'm opting to cut them in favor of these 8 1-mana spells that seem to be pretty powerful in this particular metagame. So we're gonna see how this plays out, and hopefully we get some good games with it. On top of that, like, you know, just like looking at other decks that are in the metagame, it's just like, there's not really any like combo decks actually that are focused on, well, not from the standpoint of like, I need a density of spells in my hand to win the game, and then I'm going to combo kill you with all these spells in my hand, right? You know, there's no Storm, there's no Ad Nauseam, nothing like that, where discard spells really shine. Most of the decks that are trying to play right now are playing to the board. Like we're just trying to interact in play, and so discard spells just like are not at a spot where I feel like they're super great. After I've gone on this very, very long spiel talking about how I really don't think that discard spells are great, here is a Thoughtseize that looks very powerful. So welcome to Modern. Doesn't matter, we drew a Bloodbraid Elf, so. I think I'm just gonna play a tapped Stomping Ground and get in for one. I could play out Tourach here and just like next turn, you know, go for the kick Tourach and then attack with the one that's not summoning sick. But I'm gonna end up losing one to the legend rule, so I'd rather not do that. I am gonna go ahead and kick a Tourach here, I think. Just trying to take some cards out of their hand. In all honesty, this could be bad for me, because they're on, you know, they've got their flying infect creature, and they have the mana to just kind of go pump, pump, pump. Especially after the Yavimaya. This was, okay, Rancor. Attack for 4. Okay, mutagenic. Well, Liliana's a pretty solid draw here. I will edict you. Attack for 5. I think I'd rather lead on Liliana to guarantee the removal spell that turn rather than like try and get the removal spell off of Bloodbraid Elf. Because if we just try and miss, then we're dead on the following turn. So we are dead this next turn. So I might be able to pull it out here. It's gonna be really close because we need to find. Okay, that's fine. Rancor goes back to their hand. Yeah, that's not going to do it, unfortunately. We are dead to the... Dead to the Inkmoth Nexus attacking. So. I will concede. Needed to find like a Lightning Bolt or a Kolaghan's Command off of the Bloodbraid Elf. And then we had a shot. Not necessarily sure that it would have mattered anyways. So we find Bolt, we bolt them, and we attack with the 2 creatures, and I think we deal like 9. It's like really 8 damage, I think. It's just really, really close. Hey Jose, how you doing? We are running through a couple games with this Jund variant that I've built that has no discard spells, so it's kind of an interesting take on Jund, I feel. We'll see how it plays. Lost our game 1 to green black Inkmoth, or green black infect of all things. So endurance seems somewhat interesting. They're playing 2 flying infect creatures, so this at least has reach, so you can block with it. Not the greatest option. Thoughtseize does seem somewhat powerful in this matchup. This is one of the very few decks that is, you know, build up my hand, kill you with a bunch of spells in hand kind of thing. Fury seems okay. Collective Brutality seems solid. Ancient Grudge seems okay. Alpine Moon, Kolaghan's Command, all of these things seem pretty solid. We don't really need Dauthi Voidwalker or Tourach. I like it. My biggest concern with people playing Ignoble plus Monkey was that it conflicted with discard effects. Yeah, it's just like, and I tried to run through a couple leagues with it. It was just like, the discard spells just made this 1-drop slot super, super heavy. Like you're just playing 1 mana removal spells, you're playing 1 mana monkeys, you're playing 1 mana acceleration. You're just like, ignore all that. Try and put a Liliana into play on turn 2, and like, trust me, it's probably better than playing Inquisition of Kozilek. So I think it's those 7 out. Is there any other spells that aren't super great? Wrenn and Six seems absurd in this matchup. Liliana the Last Hope seems absurd. Liliana the Veil seems pretty good. Fatal Push and Lightning Bolt seem pretty solid. Ragavan seems good. Ignoble Hierarch seems good. Bloodbraid Elf is like... I guess Bloodbraid Elf is our clock, right? If we board out like all these creatures, Bloodbraid Elf is kind of the only way we're winning the game. And then like Ragavan, obviously. Maybe Fury's not at its best. They don't usually like flood the board with creatures. It's usually just one guy. We'll run it like this. Yeah. It definitely seems like that. I agree. Here's a tough challenge. Do we lead on Monkey or do we leave on Ignoble Hierarch? I feel like the answer has to be Monkey, right? Monkey just like does so much more. So we're gonna go grab a probably green red. This deck is so black heavy, but we don't have double black spells in our hand. We also boarded out Dauthi Voidwalker, so it's not that big of a deal if we grab Stomping Ground here. I'm gonna lead on Stomping Ground. Play out my monkey. My monka. No attack or no creature from my opponent, so we're gonna go ahead and get in there. I don't think I need to play out Ignoble Hierarch pre-combat. Obviously, if I do, then I get the Exalted trigger, which is nice, but it kind of feels like this is gonna die. Yeah, that's fine. So we will play Iggy, play out a Mire, and say go. Okay. You got a Glistener Elf. I think I am going to fetch Shock here and just kill this on the end of turn, because if we draw a Bloodbraid Elf, I'm going to want to cast that anyways. Obviously, the Brutalities are starting to pile up in our hand here, but that's okay. Want to just have 4 mana free there. Glistener Elf. Bloodbraid. Think we have to lead on kill your guy, take a card from your hand. Get absolutely blown out by Veil of Summer here. Now that I mentioned its name, I've spoken it into existence. Ah! Jesus Christ. That card is so silly. Okay, well we are going to attack for 1 if they want to block. They technically do trade, because this will die after the fact. Okay. I'm pretty okay with this in general. Just like my Ignoble Hierarch just trading for a card is pretty okay with me. Shaper's Sanctuary. It's definitely an interesting one. Okay, second Glistener Elf. May end up losing this game. Just because our opponent's draws just lined up very, very well against ours. I think I'm just going to duress them. I don't want to give them more cards. And then if we just get to slam Bloodbraid into Bloodbraid. Okay, take their Groundswell, and they're left on Mutagenic Growth and a Plague Stinger. They're probably going to play out Plague Stinger and then attack for 4 here, probably, if I had to guess. And like, we're probably okay if we draw a land. If we don't draw a land, we probably die pretty quickly. Okay. We drew the land. Let's go grab my basic forest. Bloodbraid into Liliana of the Veil. I think I just edict them. I think that makes the most sense. because we're going to lead on another Bloodbraid next turn. Question here is, do I want to block this Glistener Elf, or do I want to just get in for 3? And I think the answer is get in for 3. Their life total is already starting to dwindle, so if we just go Bloodbraid Cascade into a Lightning Bolt next turn, they are just dead. Shaper Sanctuary, pretty okay with that. I did take out my Engineered Explosives in favor of Collector Ouphe for the purposes of the affinity matchup, and I think that I mean, we're obviously it's coming back to bite us here, but you know, green black infect wasn't exactly on my list of decks to beat when I built this. What did we find? Ancient Grudge? I think we found an Ancient Grudge. Okay, no targets. Can't cast that one. Okay, so I think I'm going to attack with 1 and leave 1 back because yeah, the way we sided feels bad. Sanctuary seems impossible to beat. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's okay. It's not like a huge deal because like I said, it's not like I was expecting to play against green black infect in this league, so they can attack for 1 here, and if they have a +4 effect, we are dead, but I like this deck too, Jose. I think this deck seems sick. I think it's way more correct to build this deck without the okay, we did it. 3rd Bloodbraid Elf. That's what we needed. Okay, so given that they're like on Shaper Sanctuary Tribal, are we just supposed to bring in like Endurances just as a blocker? Because I think that seems like a pretty good option if I'm being honest. Obviously like the other portion of Endurance doesn't really do much, but this is like the only way we have. This is the only removal spell that we have that doesn't target, so Ancient Grudge seems kind of awkward in this matchup upon further review. They just don't ever have, like, you're only ever gonna, like, you're never gonna cast they get into this and then like you know, they have to have a exactly Inkmoth Nexus in play for it to have a target, and you're never really gonna flash it back. I mean, we already have the Alpine Moon as an option to beat the Inkmoth Nexus, so one more card out. Probably just like a Brutality. Brutality's good, but I just don't want to have more cards that lose to Veil of Summer. I think that's fine. We'll just trim 1 Brutality and just run it like this. They can obviously like kind of beat the Endurance with the game plan of pumping their guy. They can like pump through an Endurance, but I think that's okay. We've got plenty of ways to recycle the creature, so I'm not like super worried about it. His ability doesn't matter though. His ability basically does nothing in this matchup. But he have reach. No, wait. I mean, our hand's pretty good here, so like my opponent does get to poke a hole in this hand, but I don't really see what the most obvious hole is. I think the one obvious answer is you don't take the Ignoble Hierarch. I think it's got to be Wrenn and Six, Liliana, or Endurance. I think those are the most obvious ones. Or, okay, whatever. To each their own. I guess it's like the one accelerant, so like I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I personally probably would not pick the Ignoble Hierarch because it feels like the most incorrect pick, but we'll grab a Blood Crypt basic forest here, and that's okay because Twilight Mire makes double black. And that lets me get my Wrenn and Six going. You think you take Lily Last Hope? Yeah, I'm not really sure what to take out of that hand, honestly. I think you're correct. It's probably Lily Last Hope. You're not supposed to take the Endurance because the Endurance just gets bought back with Lily Last Hope. And Wrenn and Six comes down on turn 2. Man, we're making plants? What? What is my opponent doing? Okay, I'll go grab Basic Swamp. I'll play Lily Last Hope, uptick here. Pick up my Forest, or pick up my Verdant Catacombs or whatever. And I guess it's technically possible that we die here. Maybe I'm supposed to hold up Endurance this turn. I'm gonna get super punished. I'm gonna be frustrated with myself if I lose right here. Maybe I'm supposed to make them discard a card with Kroxa. I'm not too sure. I just wanted to get my Planeswalker down, honestly. This is 3 mana. What are we playing? Lily Last Hope of their own. Okay. Okay, so we're putting a counter. Okay, so we plus Lily Last Hope. Okay, all right. We're just trying to outjund each other. That's what we're doing here. So I'm probably just supposed to like jam Bloodbraid Elf, right? Just like get this Planeswalker off the board and then like start ticking at this one. Am I supposed to use Wrenn and Six here? So if I use Wrenn and Six to ping this Nissa, there's 2 hits that I'm thinking of off of the Bloodbraid Elf that matter. If we hit Ignoble Hierarch, that gives Exalted to the Bloodbraid Elf and we can kill Liliana the Last Hope. If we hit another Wrenn and Six, we can just minus on the Nissa and then we hit Liliana for 3. Or we can just keep marching Wrenn and Six up to an ultimate, but I don't think that is going to matter this game. I'm going to minus on this Nissa. Feels like that could not matter, but we'll see. Found a Thoughtseize. Okay, I don't hate it. They have a Thoughtseize and a mutagenic growth of their own. I think I don't really care about the Thoughtseize, so I'm just gonna like take their mutagenic growth and question is now, do I want to take the Planeswalker off the board or do I want to kill Liliana the Last Hope? Maybe that's what I was supposed to do. You know what? I was probably supposed to ping this Liliana and then try and kill that one because I don't really, I mean like this doesn't do anything now. And I really just don't care about a plant. So I'm gonna attack Liliana so they can't minus it. We'll go up here, no target. Their hand is Thoughtseize and 1 unknown. They can Thoughtseize me, they're probably gonna take Endurance if I had to guess. They got a Plague Stinger. Let's start by cracking Peatland, I think. Bolt, you say. So here I think Wrenn and Six down the Plague Stinger. Maybe we just attack. And then like if they want to block with the Plague Stinger, by all means. And we just get to buy it back with Liliana. Let's do that. No Planeswalker activations. Attack your Nissa. I just want to keep them off the minus ability on Nissa. Yeah, this is fine. So we can go, we don't have double red, which kind of stinks. This Twilight Mire is not filtering for the correct colors here. Maybe this should be a Graven Carns for Kroxa exactly. Not sure. We don't really need double green, I guess. But I wanted to filter the forest. Not sure. I don't think we're going for a Liliana ultimate. So, man, this turn is, there's a lot of decisions to be made this turn. I'm really not too sure what to do here. I think I'm going to plus the Liliana on the plant just to get it off the board. Minus the Wrenn on Nissa. Maybe I'm just supposed to plus both of my Planeswalkers. And then just hold a bolt. So like, how do we get punished, right? So if they go activate Inkmoth, activate Nissa, attempting to put a counter here. They attack for 3. And then they attack with the, well, the plant's gonna be dead if we plus. They have 1 card in hand. We can let damage resolve because they're either dealing us 3. Yeah, there's very little way we actually get punished for this. They're either dealing us 3 infect or they're dealing 3 damage to a Planeswalker, and I just don't really care if they hit the Planeswalker, as long as we're holding up bolt. Whew. That's like gotta be the ultimate punish line, right? Okay, they're going for pickup Plague Stinger. We do have a couple copies of Abrupt Decay in our deck, so we can try and find Abrupt Decay here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and bolt the Nissa. I'm not gonna end up spinning this lightning bolt on this Inkmoth Nexus, and I think I'd just rather take the Nissa off the board before they can activate its abilities. I think that's kind of what they were going in on anyways, so. Attack me for 2 infect. That's fine. And we'll go ahead and mill 2 and buy back. Probably Bloodbraid Elf. Grab Endurance, I suppose. Just kind of protects us really well. I don't hate it. Let's grab Bloodbraid and try and dig for Abrupt Decay. Bloodbraid. Bloodbraid. So I will go return my Endurance 2 damage to you. And I will pick up Verdant Catacombs here. And I'm gonna go ahead and do no attacks. If they want to attack with their Glistener Elf into the Bloodbraid, I think I'm okay with that. getting to the point where I think we're gonna have enough protection where I don't think we can just die out of nowhere. So I want to just kind of keep our infect total as low as possible, so that's why I'm not attacking. I think I will go ahead and mill 2 again and just go for another Bloodbraid if we find one. Found a Ragavan, I'm okay with that. Ragavan's pretty solid here. Go ahead and cast Ragavan. No dash, I'll just cast him. And I will go ahead and get in with the Bloodbraid now. And I'm gonna fetch shock for a a red source rather, and then go ahead and play the front half of Kroxa. Red, black. Just hold up endurance. Decay my Wrenn and Six. That's just rude. Does take a card out of their hand though. Or well, it does drain them for 3 rather. Iggy. One Iggy boy. If he chooses to attack, I'm gonna block. Easiest block of your life, right, dude? I mean, it hurts a little bit, right? It's a monkey, after all. Not the monkey. Okay, I'm gonna block with Ignoble Hierarch. And I'll go ahead and play out my fetch land and uptick this on nothing. And drain them for 2 because I didn't forget that this had that mode. I would like to extend to you my hand, my opponent. Good games. Pretty solid. Obviously that's not a deck that I was anticipating seeing in a modern league right now, but you know, I mean, we're still just doing Jund things for the most part. So felt pretty powerful there. We got to beat our opponent without targeting their creatures, which was solid. So obviously if they lead on Shaper's Sanctuary that game's probably very, very different. But we do have 2 Abrupt Decays to technically answer that. So like, it's possible this deck needs more answers to enchantments in general with Enchantress running around. I was playing a couple copies of Engineered Explosives when this deck was a Lurrus deck. Because you can obviously buy back explosives with Lurrus, but I think Collector Ouphe and Stony Silence are better sideboard options right now for the affinity decks than other like sweeper options, right? I think that, you know, if you have the option of playing something like Pyroclasm or Collector Ouphe, I'm gonna play Collector Ouphe every time. Like, you know, even if it's like Supreme Verdict, like Shatterstorm, I'm going to pick Collector Ouphe every time because Collector Ouphe is a spell that you can play on turn 2. Stony Silence is a spell you can play on turn 2 against a deck that is trying to be flooding the board and killing you on turn 3. So, you know, no hand hate in the main. Yeah, no, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier whenever I was going over the building of this deck, but basically, Yeah, the deck is really, really dense on these 1-drops from MH2. And in every iteration that I built with the new cards, the 1-mana interaction just felt really weak. It's just like, or well, in the form of discard spells, exactly. Like, you know, a lot of the decks right now are playing to the board, the affinity decks, the green-black Asmora decks, the you know, the blue-red spells decks. All of those decks are playing to the board, and there's not a ton that you can really do with discard spells anyways right now. Like, I mean, even against like the blue-red spells decks, like if I Inquisition you, the best card in their hand is going to be a Stormwing Entity, and Inquisition doesn't do anything against Stormwing Entity. You know, there's like a whole bunch of threats that just are missed by Inquisition, and it's no longer as good as it was. And Fetch Shock Thoughtseize is a huge liability in this metagame. So yeah, I'm leaning on the 1-drops from MH2 more so than Inquisition Thoughtseize, and just trying out this shell to see how this feels. So definitely is it's been interesting so far. I do not regret my decision so far. Obviously, I did have a couple of sideboard options in the form of Thoughtseize and Collective Brutality for hand hate, but opponent says congrats on the Captain Challenge win. I appreciate that. Question here is, do we lead on Bolt, Fatal Push, or Ragavan? If this was Legacy, you're supposed to kill the Delver, right? But in Legacy, you would get dazed. I mean, if I point a removal spell out at him, I'm probably going to get like Force Negation, or like, I mean, there's like, I don't know, maybe Disrupting Shoal or something. Ragavan's the most powerful play. They probably don't have a ton of ways to interact with it once it's in play, too. Yeah, I'm down for jamming Ragavan. I think I'm going to lead on Ragavan. So they like have to have Disrupting Shoal here, or Subtlety if they want to interact with this. Mismatching basics. All right, all right. That's a 1/1. Getting in. All right, I will return the favor. Smack you. But instead of for 1, this one will be for 2. Suspend your creature. Well, that's just rude. I think I'm going to bolt the Delver, hoping to get a Spell Pierce out of my opponent. Okay, no Spell Pierce. Okay, well, I'm glad I led on Lightning Bolt. I wasn't really sure what other threats they would be playing, but Tempest Gen is a powerful one. Probably need to go get... I guess it doesn't really matter because we're just holding basic forest, so like Kroxa is not coming down anytime soon. Gonna go ahead and Fatal Push the Tempest Gen here, and then we'll... Oh yeah, that guy has Suspend. Forgot that's how that works. We're gonna jam a Liliana into play. Discard this Kroxa. You know what's really awkward for my opponent? Doesn't have suspend and gains suspend. It put 2 time counters on it. All right, dude. It's about to come back. And when something comes off suspend, if it's a creature, it gains haste. Gonna go grab another Blood Crypt here. Should have maybe thought about that for a second. Maybe needed a second green source, but not a huge deal. Gonna go ahead and plus Lily, discard a Bloodbraid, and then we'll play a second Bloodbraid. There is some consideration just to like holding the second Bloodbraid and not plussing Lily, but return target creature, target player discards a card. But see, I'm me, and I knew there was a Kolaghan's command on top of my deck, so I was playing to pick up the, you know, I was playing for this line. Wow, take my monkey. That's disgusting. Okay, well, I will not be attacking. Do you think my opponent's gonna... If my opponent draws a suspend, what do you think they do? Do you think you take the line where you're like, alright, dude, suspend the Bloodbraid? Hey, Mana Symbol, I appreciate the raid. Welcome everybody from Mana Symbol stream. I hope you guys had a good stream. We are over here testing out some new cards in a Boomer style Jund list. Very similar to a Lurrus build that I had of Jund early on in MH2. Just kind of trying out some new stuff. I think I'll lead on Liliana Plus here. Tails in, okay. Ragavan. What up, nerd? Not a ton, man. Yeah, so like the premise on this deck here, I'll show you guys a little bit whenever we go into sideboarding here. So, okay, so basically my ideal behind this deck, or at least the changes that I've made to this deck. I played a Lurrus version of this deck that had, you know, Mishra's Bauble, Dauthi Voidwalker, Tourach, that sort of thing. And it was pretty powerful. I was impressed with it, but for the most part, wasn't super impressed with the discard spells. So like Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, things like that. I was not super impressed with those spells. Also, the original list that I was playing didn't have Ragavan, and then I tried out Ragavan. And obviously, as I'm sure some of you are familiar, I'm a huge fan of Ragavan at this point. So, you know, I just want to play it in literally every deck that I can. So I took out the discard spells, take out the Inquisitions, take out the Thoughtseizes. They're not like super great in this metagame as it is, I feel like, at least personally. So, you know, I'm willing to be wrong, but as far as I've seen from the this build so far, it seems pretty solid. There are a couple changes that I might end up making, but this is like a, you know, a preliminary build, and it's been impressive so far. So, playing against Mono Blue Delver. What do I want against Mono Blue Delver? Probably not a ton. I mean, like, Thoughtseize is okay here. Perhaps Collective Brutality. That card seems okay. With Harambe Blade. R.I.P. Harambe. So what cards do we not want? Dauthi seems kind of subpar. Don't really care too much about their graveyard getting exiled. So maybe we just want like more interaction in the form of Thoughtseize and Collective Brutality. He's a monkey, not an ape. This is true. He is in fact a monkey, not an ape. Harambe could have been a pirate. Oh my god. Seems a little awkward. But it's got a monkey. So that probably means it's supposed to keep it, right? Okay. Okay. So now that here the question becomes, do I play turn 1 Ragavan or do I play turn 1 Ignoble Hierarch? And I think it kind of has to be the monkey, right? Monkey's so good. Monkey's so good. Oh shit, they're gonna flip her Delver on turn 3. No! Not Delver. He's set up his deck. How am I supposed to beat this? The 1 mana 3/2 flyer. I'd play the Hierarch because I like setting up dash on 2. Yeah, I could definitely see that line. I'm gonna go with this line and play the monkey on 1. But I'm removal averse. Yeah, no, so I mean, like, from game 1, the only removal spell we saw out of them was suspend. I mean, it is mono blue, so like, you know, that's something to consider, I suppose. I mean, they may be playing like Dismember or something like that, but given that I saw them play suspend, it feels kind of like they're trying to abuse suspend and do some suspendy stuff with like Teferi Time Raveler or whatever. Okay, they do in fact have a Dismember. Go ahead and shock in the tomb. It's possible I should have grabbed Stomping Ground here instead of the Blood Crypt. Then we would be able to play double Hierarch here. Not a huge deal. The first Hierarch is going to give us some extra mana. The second and third Hierarch are not really super big deal. Yeah, in hindsight, getting a Stomping Ground there was better for more triggers. Yeah. And also just being able to deploy additional Hierarchs that turn if we chose to. What are they on, by the way? Mono blue Delver. That's we've seen them play islands and nothing but blue spells so far. So this is not a card that I was aware that they were playing, but it's not one that I was, you know, imagining they wouldn't be playing. So probably gonna die to that. We do need to find a Liliana of the Veil relatively quickly. So we're gonna go Iggy and Iggy into untap Bloodbraid, cast a Liliana of the Veil off the top of our deck, make them sacrifice a creature, and win the game that way, right? That's what's gonna happen, chat. Okay, Thought Scour themselves again. Swamp. I am going to play out the swamp here. Maybe I should have Collector Brutality to start. I'm going to go ahead and kicker this. Only reason is I want more information. I know I'm dead to the flyer, but may as well go out and gather some information. Suspend and Misty Rainforest. I never saw any white sources, so I don't actually know that they're on Tourach, but kind of feels like they are. There's not a single card in our sideboard that helps us beat Murktide Regent, so I don't really think there's much that we can do to change dying to that, aside from Liliana of the Veil beating it, so... Hand's pretty subpar. We have lands and spells. Like, we have lands and things to do, but we don't have turn 1 Monkey. We don't have turn 1 Ignoble Hierarch. We don't have a Liliana of the Veil. We don't have any of our Planeswalkers. We're playing 8 Planeswalkers in this deck. Probably supposed to throw this one back. but I'm not sure. We do have the answer for a turn 1 Delver. I'm gonna keep this. Just lead on a tap Stomping Ground. Turn 1 Delver in this economy? I know it, brother. Crazy. Thoughtseize you. Okay, so they're on Counterspell, Archmage's Charm, Thought Scour, and Dismember. So I think we're taking their Archmage's Charm, bolting the Delver, and then lining up these as just like discard spells the next few turns. Take a peek. Probably gonna take our, or they're probably gonna counterspell this. Yep. Is that the counterspell we saw? It was the counterspell we saw. At least the same artwork. Okay, it's the island we saw. Okay, take a look at their hand, take a card out of it. Okay, they're choosing to draw 2, which I think seems correct to some degree. Okay, Serum Visions, Dismember, Delver. I think we take their Dismember and then dash a monkey. Let's do that. Dashing through the snow with a little old monkey. Tempest Gin. Well, Bloodbraid's pretty good. Let's do that. Okay, we'll just bolt him. And I'll just cast the monkey. No attacks. Good point. Why not attack with Exalted BBE? Very good point. Very good point. Should have done that. Did not cross my mind that this was going to, that this was in play, rather. Okay, Wrenn is pretty good. You can go Wrenn minus on the Delver. Unfortunately, there's not any lands to grab back. Like, guaranteeing a land this turn wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, because then we could, you know, Kroxa and then escape Kroxa if we had the fetch land in the graveyard, but it's not the end of the world, so I think I am going to go ahead and Wrenn down the Delver. Play out a Kroxa, take their take one of their cards out of their hand. Say their last card. They got 3 cards in hand. Yeah, I will definitely be getting in with the Exalted BBE. Opponent choosing to trade. Interesting. Hey, NM Johnston. Appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, another Djinn. Okay. Verdant Catacombs is pretty solid draw here. Just grab a swamp, seems fine. Pick it up. I go red, red, black, black. For Kroxa, we're just gonna delve all of the spells. Bloodbraid Elf is I mean, we have the opportunity of finding Liliana the Last Hope. We also can find Kolaghan's Command. That would be fine. And Kroxa is going to kill our opponent very quickly. They drew an island and chose to play it, so we know we have full knowledge. And the Kroxa has Exalted. Go ahead and fetch and just grab a tap land. Right. Yeah. So we can't K command and cast Bloodbraid Elf this turn. If we could, I'd probably just go ahead and do that. Just deal 2 to them and then pick up the Bloodbraid. But I'll do it this way. Okay, choosing to take 2 means they are dead. Sub 2 to you. Has Ragavan been good? More than you know. I do think that Ragavan plays really well in like permission style blue decks, but he also just plays well in these style of decks where you're just like, you know, you're just trying to jun your opponent out, so to speak, you know, and just play cards off the top of their deck. It draws you cards, it makes you mana, you know, like it just kind of does everything. It's really just a really powerful card. So yes, it's been very good, very impressive, and I think it will continue to be impressive and very good as the metagame moves forward. And up until the point where people start killing it on turn 1. As soon as people start figuring out that you just have to kill Ragavan on turn 1, then a boy Trebs. Hello. Hello, sir. Metad, is it Metad? Mated? CG? Is that how you say your name? Matat? Matat CG? Wow, I got 5 tier 1 subs. Appreciate the tier 1s, my boy. Thank you for coming in. Thank you. I will never mispronounce your name again. I'm sorry. Meta TCG. Thanks, brother. Am I supposed to mulligan this hand? Give us Grixis in Modern. Don't get me wrong, I've definitely considered it. I will keep this hand. I could be convinced that I'm supposed to put this one back. We don't have any red mana, but we do have a Fatal Push and a Liliana, so... Second Bloodbraid is not exactly what we wanted to see. Yeah, no, but to kind of cover what you said about the Grixis Ragavan deck, I do think that Grixis Ragavan is interesting. Grixis colors kind of give you some interesting tools that other colors don't necessarily. So it definitely can be interesting, but I haven't found a shell that I'm completely convinced on. I think if you want to go the Grixis route, it kind of has to be nice. 6 gifted subs. Just really reeling them in there today. Appreciate it, man. So opponent looks to be on my list from the challenge. All right, dude. Hope you get some good games in. Have a good one. Yeah, so our opponent looks to be on my list from the challenge, almost exactly because they're playing the Ragavan Triome, and I think a lot of people are sort of cutting this. I think it's to some degree correct to cut this at this point. We can jam Liliana. I think I like that. Let's just jam Liliana. And then on the following turns, assuming we find a land, we can go Bloodbraid into Bloodbraid into Bloodbraid. Bloodbraid, Bloodbraid, Bloodbraid. Nice Pokemon land. It's a Pokemon land. I think my opponent knows that he's playing my list. Probably getting Cryptic here if I had to guess. Yep. Again, this kind of still swings in our favor as soon as we draw our fourth land. Opponent has to start doing some pretty impressive things here. Okay, they got a Batterskull. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and untap. And now I will go, you discard a card, destroy your artifact. Okay, gonna go ahead and cast Wrenn again. That one just resolved. My opponent is out of counter magic. What's my favorite Ragavan deck so far? Definitely the one my opponent is currently playing. The Jeskai Stoneblade deck was a deck that I built and played in the challenge on Saturday to a first place finish, and I was very impressed and very happy with the deck in general. I think that Ragavan plays really well with a counter magic suite backup. I think if you are going to play Ragavan, it makes the most sense to play him in this style of a shell. So beginning of combat, I'm going to go ahead and Fatal Push the Ragavan. You want to do this here, because if they have a second copy of Ragavan that they want to dash, they can't do it. Prismatic Ending. Just going to go ahead and grab a Stomping Ground here, I think. Would you say you went bananas when you won? Yeah, sure. Whatever floats your boat, dude. Dude, Dustin, you're going wild with these subs. It's too super unnecessary, my man, but I definitely appreciate it. Somewhat interesting with Lightning Bolt's interaction specifically against Dauthi Voidwalker. Dauthi Voidwalker dies due to state-based actions. He doesn't die because of the Lightning Bolt killed it. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to the target, and then Dauthi dies due to state-based actions. So the Lightning Bolt resolves, dealing 3 damage to the creature, and then gets exiled because there's a creature in play that says exile all of the spells. And then, after the fact, then Dauthi has 3 damage on it and dies to state-based actions. So, you were curious how that worked. Hey, Freedmania, appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in. Bloodbraid into Bloodbraid into Bloodbraid into Monkey. With destroy effects, it works the other way around. So with Lightning Bolt against Dauthi, Dauthi dies to state-based actions because there's 3 damage on the Dauthi. Whereas with destroy effects, Dauthi dies as part of the spell resolving. So Dauthi would go to the graveyard as part of Fatal Push resolving. So then Fatal Push resolves after Dauthi has died, and then Fatal Push goes to the graveyard. So with destroy effects, Dauthi goes to the graveyard, and then so does the Fatal Push. There's no situation where Dauthi would go to exile, but there's like some situations where that may come up, you know, like against like Rest in Peace or something like that. You get like your Rest in Peace Abrupt Decay, then the Rest in Peace goes to exile and Abrupt Decay goes to the graveyard. So what cards do we want? What cards do we not? Abrupt Decay seems somewhat subpar. Fatal Push seems solid. Just like we want like our 1 mana removal spells to some degree. Maybe we want Abrupt Decay over Fatal Push because Abrupt Decay is uncounterable. It just like kills the thing uncounterably. A lot of people have learned that the hard way after bolting Goyfs. Yeah. I played against a Merfolk player one time, a long time ago. Like, it was one of the very first games of Modern that I probably ever played. And I had a Tarmogoyf in play, and my opponent dismembered my Tarmogoyf. And I only knew about the interaction because people had told me, like, make sure when your opponent bolts your Tarmogoyf, you do it this way. And I was like, hey, your dismember doesn't actually kill this Tarmogoyf. And, like, yeah, I had to call a judge over, and my judge was like, yep. Tarmogoyf's still alive. He's 0-1. Hey, El Pablo. Appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in, man. We are playing some Jund with some of the new Modern Horizons 2 cards. Dauthi Voidwalker, Tourach, Ignoble Hierarch, and Ragavan. Namely, these 15 cards here. So, been interesting so far. Cards that we want in this matchup. I think you want the 3rd Kolaghan's Command and probably the Thoughtseizes. Maybe even the Brutalities to some degree. So let's do that over like the Fatal Pushes. And then is there anything else I want to change? Probably not. Everything else seems pretty solid. I think I'll run it like this. If my opponent is playing my list, I don't think they have a ton for this matchup. I think they have Path Exiles, but like... this hand's pretty solid. It's got to turn 1 Thoughtseize into a Wrenn. I lost a game like that, but I bolt the Goyf and my opponent didn't know the interaction either. Then 2 turns later, a judge put the Goyf back in play from a spectator. Oh, that's rough. Yeah, it's always kind of a feels bad whenever somebody else mentions something on your game and you're like, excuse me, sir. You're not even sitting at this table. That Goyf was dead. Probably going to take the counter spell. It's the most powerful card in their hand. Prismatic Ending does get to kill the Wrenn and Six, but not until after it picks up a fetch land, so we get a little bit of value out of it. I know there's been some argument on whether or not you should be playing Ragavan Triome in the Jeskai Stoneblade deck. I'm personally of the opinion that you should be playing this land. I think it makes your mana a little bit smoother in sideboard games. It's also just like a land that cycles, you know, so it's like, I would personally choose to play it, but I know that some people have made their opinions firm that they do not like that land in that particular deck, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I think, you know, like, you could sway me one way or another on that is basically what I'm saying. Pick up the Verdant, pass the turn. Yep, I knew this was coming. It is a little bit awkward. The only threat we had in our hand was the Wrenn and Six, and now it's gone. Opponent choosing not to deploy their Jace the Mind Sculptor, which is a little bit interesting. I think I will just cast this Ragavan. Mostly because I feel like one of two things is going to happen. They are either going to steal it with a Archmage's Charm, or they're going to kill it with a Bolt or a Path or something, or they're going to just counter it outright. At which point, these Kolaghan's commands become pretty solid. Only one exception is if it gets Prismatic Ended or if it gets Path Exiled. Subtlety. Okay. This is one I got a lot of flack on for playing in my list. It's kind of interesting here. Do I want to put this on top? I'll put it on bottom. Thing is that if they play a Jace, my hand becomes a little bit awkward as it is. Because I really want to point the lightning bolt at the subtlety, but I kind of need the lightning bolt to help deal with the Jace. Them dashing Ragavan is like pretty a-okay with me here. I'm just gonna Abrupt Decay the Ragavan. K that boy. I think I'll go ahead and bolt the subtlety here as well now that my opponent has dashed their Ragavan. I think probably best case scenario for me here is that my opponent goes Jace plus. Because then we just get to spend our two Kolaghan's commands going Shock Jace, you discard a card, Shock Jace, you discard a card, attack Jace for 1. Which is not like a crazy good play for us, but you know, it lets us use all of our mana, use all of our cards, and we get to kill the Jace pretty effectively and take a couple cards out of our opponent's hand. Okay, they are choosing to draw 2. They're wanting a more empty board to deploy their Jace on. Yeah, I mean, I'm like pretty okay with this. I don't think I really want to spend a K command to pick that back up, honestly. I'm just gonna kind of wait until we get something real good, like a Bloodbraid Elf or... Yeah. This isn't exactly the card that I want to be picking back up with Kolaghan's command, but it's a solid draw nonetheless. It's a resilient threat. Tony Idaho, thanks for tuning in, man. I appreciate the follow. Stone Froggy Mog. Stone Frog Mystic. I'll be the first one to admit that I think that Kaldra is going to be a relatively difficult threat for us to beat if it resolves. We're going to go 2 damage and you discard a card. May have a counterspell for this. Okay. Still have to use our turn. Killing the Stoneforge Mystic. Ah, dang, my finger slipped again. Oh my god. So I think I'm gonna go return target creature, deal 2 damage to the Stoneforge Mystic. Reason you want to do it this way is because the Kroxa technically has a better ability than just making your opponent discard off of the Kolaghan's command. You're basically doing the exact same thing here, but this lets be slightly more mana efficient. And if they discard a non-land spell, or if they discard a land off the Kroxa, then they take 3 damage. So you may as well do it this way. They have chosen to discard Kaldra complete. I didn't technically have to play the land out, but you know, not a huge deal. Okay, they deployed their Jace. Grab a Overgrown Tomb. Cannot deploy the Dauthi here, which is a little bit unfortunate. We'll just exile Kolaghan's command, Abrupt Decay, Thoughtseize, and the Bolt. We'll just leave the fetch lands and the Ignoble Hierarch in the graveyard. This is a Narset? Archmage's Charm. I was really confused on how they were tapping. Okay, bounce the Kroxa. Not the end of the world. Means we get to go Dauthi into Kroxa next turn, make them discard a card from their hand. Suppose we could also just go Kroxa into Kroxa if we draw. Actually, we do have to draw land if we do that, if we wanted to do that. So this turn I am going to go Dauthi into Kroxa into dash Ragavan. And I think I'm going to dash the Ragavan at the Jace. Craziest part about all this, if the Dauthi resolves and we get to dash this Ragavan at the Jace goes to exile with a void counter on it, and next turn we get to play a Jace. That would be so much fun. Give me your Jace, opponent. Please. Please give me Jace. Opponent's in the tank about this Dauthi. I broke my opponent. Can you cast the card with Dauthi at instant speed if it's not an instant? No. Dauthi specifically says, sacrifice Dauthi Voidwalker, choose an exile card with an opponent owns with a void counter on it. You may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. So it doesn't actually just say, it's not like when this ability resolves, cast that spell. It's you may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. So it's just giving you the ability to cast that spell without paying its mana cost. So you do have to apply all timing restrictions, and you're just like casting it from exile basically. Okay, they are choosing to counter the Archmage's Charm. Oh, no, they're drawing 2 cards. Okay, interesting. Okay, well I'm gonna go ahead and play out my Kroxa. Take a card out of your hand. We found a Steam Vents. We're gonna dash the monkey. Kill your Jace. What about hitting a suspend card with monkey? We did that during the challenge, and I really wasn't sure how that worked, but you cannot cast the suspend card. As far as I don't know exactly how it's like, why it's worded that way, but until end of turn, you may cast that card. But like there's not a casting cost on, like you still have to pay all mana costs on the spell. And there's not a casting cost on the suspend cards. So if you were to hit like Crashing Footfalls or Ancestral Visions off this, then you would not get to cast it. I don't think it was the challenge actually. I think I did it during a league yesterday. I just found like my opponent was playing some Greater Gargadon deck, and I hit a Restore Balance off the top of their deck and tried to cast it just because I was curious, and it would not let me. So I'm assuming that is the correct ruling on that. Dash there, monkey. No, not the monkey. Not the monkey. And I cannot block this because this has shadow. My opponent found my swamp. Snapcaster Mage. Probably Prismatic Ending or Bolt. Okay, that makes sense. Bolt's fine. Black, black, red, red. We'll just exile. I've already been through 2 Kolaghan's commands, so I'm going to err on the side of potentially drawing a Wrenn and Six and having a fetch land to pick up with it, rather than having a creature to pick up with another K command. Just going to play out Ignoble Hierarch and play out my Ragavan. Say you hit an Asmo, can you cast it for 0 or cast it for 1 if you've discarded? You can cast Asmora Norma off of Ragavan. If you have discarded a card, you can cast it for its its ability cost or whatever. You can also cast Asmo off of the Dauthi without, obviously you're not paying a mana cost with Dauthi, so it just ignores that part, but you can cast Asmo off of the Dauthi. So yes to both of those. What's this last card my opponent has? Dash Monkey. Okay, I'm probably supposed to trade monkeys here because they get to just block my monkey if I attack, so it's me versus 2 snaps. And they exile my Kroxa. No attack. Just hoping to draw like a Bloodbraid Elf. One of my Planeswalkers would be fine. My opponent has played this game quite well, so kudos to them for that. Yep, I am dead to Bolt. Well, we probably weren't getting anywhere with that monkey, but, you know, it's possible. Dustin, I'm gonna need you to chill, dude. I thought you were going to play Warzone. Bobby. Somewhat interesting. We could bring in the endurances just to counter the I'm playing with Dusty. I got downtime. Oh, okay. That makes some sense. I'm sorry. We could bring in the endurances to counter the Snapcaster Mage abilities. Hey, Beamic, appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in, man. So I think this is the only consideration here. And I'm not too sure that it's really worth it. But it could be, I don't know. I think we had a pretty rough draw that game, I'm not gonna lie. Like our hand was, like we didn't see any Nurturing Peatlands. We didn't have any of our Planeswalkers. No Bloodbraid Elves. It was a pretty poor draw in general for the most part. This hand seems okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Probably just gonna lead on Foothills to answer a turn 1 Ragavan. Just grab a Blood Crypt. Not a huge deal once you kind of have all your colors in play, so. Lead on Thoughtseize. So my opponent has a somewhat interesting hand. I think that the line is, we're not, okay, so we're definitely not taking Cryptic Command. We could take Lightning Bolt, because Lightning Bolt does eventually get pointed that the Liliana. It does make it a little bit awkward for us to minus Liliana. Chase Breaker, appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in, man. Yo, nice to find your stream. It's Big Chris from Evo. Dustin says you're big time in it now, so I had to see. Oh, yeah. Big time in it. Yeah, okay. No, I mean, he's, you know, it's he's probably drawn it a little bit out of proportion, but yeah, I've gotten some attention lately because I won a challenge on Magic Online last Saturday with a Jeskai Ragavan deck, so it was a lot of fun to play, and yeah, my stream's been doing well since then, so certainly appreciate it. But what to take here? I think it's probably supposed to be Counterspell just to guarantee that we get the Liliana in play. It does invite my opponent into playing out their Stoneforge Mystic. So I'm gonna go ahead and shock this into play with the plan to they deploy a Stoneforge Mystic, we'll bolt the Stoneforge and then play Liliana, and we'll uptick probably discarding the second copy of Lightning Bolt. And we pretty easily win this game if our opponent just like continues to miss land drops. So I'm going to let them tutor their deck. They did find a land. They played out a Spirebluff Canal while they're holding a Hallowed Fountain. So it's interesting that my opponent chose to go get Kaldra when I pretty much signaled that I had a removal spell there, but I think I'm gonna discard the Ragavan here, actually. I know the monkey seems pretty good, but I think this next turn is going to be my opponent playing a Stoneforge Mystic. Probably untapped, if I had to guess. Off of an untapped Hallowed Fountain is what I mean to say. And then holding up Lightning Bolt. And then if I minus the Lily, they get to bolt it. What are we doing here? Prismatic ending the Lily. Okay, all right. That's probably worst case scenario for me, I suppose. But that's pretty good. Probably best case scenario for me, I suppose. Grab a Wooded Foothills. Play my Wooded Foothills. Say go. Stoneforge. My opponent's hand at this point is Bolt, Kaldra, one unknown. They grab Batterskull. Again, I would say that this is not correct from my opponent's side. I suppose like you're not supposed to grab Kaldra first. Like at this point, it's probably fine to grab Batterskull, but I would probably grab the sword here instead of Batterskull. But I would have grabbed Batterskull first, so I guess that's where my discrepancy lies. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cascade Bloodbraid into a Dauthi. Duo Yang says, any thoughts on holding the bolt there? Like, for the Stoneforge, you mean? I mean, I suppose that's like a line that you could take, but, yeah, I mean, you can like take, I mean, yeah, I mean, we know what the 3 of the cards in their hand are. I mean, like, the only consideration is if they have like Force of Negation, but we know they're 3 cards, so I don't think it matters much either way, honestly, you know. Honestly, what I probably could have done is no Bolt, deploy Liliana, minus Wrenn on the Stoneforge, play Liliana, uptick on the Stoneforge, and then we just kind of get it for free with our Planeswalkers. Then we have Bloodbraid and Bolt in our hand still. So there's multiple lines you could have chosen to take this turn. I think all of them lead to Rome. Hey, Sedex, I appreciate the host. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I just have PTSD from messing with BBs. Hey, no shame in that. Hey, probably gonna bounce my Dauthi if I had to guess. They did bolt the Bloodbraid. Grab an Overgrown Tomb. Hey, Voodoo Kick, appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in, man. We're going to point to damage at the Teferi. Going to play out our Liliana. Here we're going to minus to pick up the... Ooh. Tourach seems pretty good. I think I'm gonna grab Tourach. Heck yeah. You know what? This is a Tourach stream, bro. You know what seems really good about Tourach here? So the main reason I'm grabbing Tourach. Next turn, so if my opponent has like the best turn they can possibly have, it's probably land Batterskull. That's the best thing they can possibly do here. What I'm going to do on my following turn is I'm going to go Tourach your hand away, take your Kaldra out of your hand, cast your Kaldra with my Dauthi, and Kaldra is much better than Batterskull. I don't know if anybody's told you that, but I'm here. Don't worry, kiddos. I'm here to tell you that Kaldra is in fact much better than Batterskull in a one-on-one fight. Obviously, there are spots where Batterskull is going to be better than Kaldra, but when you put Batterskull against Kaldra, Kaldra does in fact win that fight. Kaldra's just a little bit bigger. Just a little bit scarier. Okay, we got his cards. What did he discard? Counterspell Kaldra. So yeah, let's just cast Kaldra. Just do that here. Living Weapon. Am I short a Blood Crypt somewhere? I thought I had 3 Blood Crypts in this deck. Maybe not. Synthetic Dynamic asks, how do you like Voidwalker? I think Voidwalker has been pretty impressive so far. Dauthi is... why did I think Dauthi still required you to spend mana? Gotta read these cards. Yeah, Dauthi's for free, man. Dauthi's free. No bananas. Just play the cards. No, yeah, but to answer your question on is Dauthi playable, I definitely think that Dauthi has been very impressive in the games that I've gotten to play it. The fact that he lets you cast the spell for free is the part that really makes him over the top, I feel like. So it'll be interesting to see if this card finds a home in Modern. It being a 3/2 unblockable is like a pretty solid body. So it's like a solid card just without the ability. With the ability, I think it kind of puts it, you know, somewhere over the top. The question is which deck it fits in is really what it comes down to, and I don't think that has been answered just yet. So I'm gonna go Dauthi here. I think I'm gonna go you discard, destroy your artifact. And trust me, I am aware that they can pick up the Batterskull, but they still have to discard a card. This was something I used to do a lot in Grixis Legacy decks. When they only had Batterskull in play and they had 0 cards in hand, I would very regularly go Kolaghan's Command, you discard a card, destroy your Batterskull, and they do not have the choice of doing one or the other. They just have to bin the Batterskull, basically. But in this case, my opponent obviously had a card in hand. I was looking for an opportunity to potentially find a spot where my opponent would not have a card in their hand, but there just wasn't one. So not a huge deal. We're just going to sort of take some tempo away from my opponent and move into the stage of the game where my opponent has to have something super crazy here to win this game, and I don't think they're gonna have it. They just don't have any way to take this off the board, do they? Like, I've just kind of put this out of range for them at this point. I mean, I guess this is a 4/4 that blocks this, but it's not really a 4/4. There's a Liliana in play. I'm gonna start with mill 2, pick up Bloodbraid. Found an Ignoble Hierarch. Gonna dash the monkey into play. Attack with everybody. And I'll put it up to my opponent to figure out how to block this. So they're going to block here. They're effectively at 10. They're taking 8, 19, 11, 12, 13, and then 14 from the Wrenn and Six. Okay, so we are 3-0. 6-3 on games. We've won all of our game 3s, so this is shaping up to be a somewhat longer league, but currently 3-0 in this league, so looks pretty solid so far. I think all of our choices to sort of build around a discardless Jund deck are paying off. So My one consideration is I still don't know how we're beating the Titan matchups. Feels like the Titan matchup is still rough. Like still pretty rough. Tourach helps a ton in that matchup for clarity. Like I think that Tourach helps a whole bunch in the Titan matchups, as does Liliana. So like if you have the combination of Tourach, Liliana, you're probably in pretty good shape. I'm gonna go ahead and mulligan this. This hand's much better. We get to bottom a land too because we have a Wrenn and Six in our hand, so just get to keep 4 spells, Wrenn and Six. Inspiring Vantage. All of a sudden, I have a fear going down my spine. Is it burn? Probably gonna die here. Probably gonna die. My opponent's gonna go lightning bolt you. I'm really hoping that my opponent just plays like, oh my god. No, please. No, please. Yeah, so my deck is not built to beat burn, even in the slightest. We have 2 copies of Collective Brutality, and that is, that's our interaction. That's it. Okay. Fatal Push is pretty a-okay draw, though. So the game plan here is to jam Liliana, jam Bloodbraid into Bloodbraid. And we just have to hope that that's good enough because our opponent has 6 cards in hand and a mission to fry me like a fish. No, please. Go grab a tap land. Problem is that like I can't just not pay this extra life. Like I have to kill my opponent. So like this is my only option. Okay. Dauthie's not a bad hit. It definitely can be good. It's not exactly ideal in this spot, but there are games where you can Dauthi back a lightning helix, and if you're able to Dauthi a lightning helix, then that's pretty good. I don't imagine that's going to be one of these games. My opponent did not shock their land into play, which seems like a good sign for me. You know, there wasn't a lightning bolt at the end of the turn. My opponent's played a 4th land, also a good sign for me. Boros Charm you down to 2. Skullcrack you to -1. We have died. Yeah, this matchup seems rough. We want the Collective Brutalities, and that's like it, right? We just want Collective Brutalities. Ragavan's pretty good in this matchup too. I don't like. Maybe you want Fury just because it dodges Eidolon's ability. I could see that. That's the only reason I would want this card. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a whatever removal spell. Yeah, specifically it dodges Eidolon's ability. So like, and like sometimes it could be a 2-for-1. I'm in for that. Like what cards do we not want though? Like Dauthie's kind of awkward in this matchup. Ignoble Hierarch is not the greatest, but I think we're supposed to keep it in. Liliana, the Last Hope's pretty subpar. Kolaghan's Command's probably better. Something like this. Wrenn and Six is not very good in this matchup, but if you can get to the ultimate and start recycling Collector Brutalities, you can't lose. So, like, there's that. But that's basically all this card does in this matchup. It's funny too, prior to starting this league, I had 2 Weather the Storms in my sideboard, specifically for this matchup. But I don't feel like Weather the Storm is good enough for Prowess. It's such an awkward like balance because Prowess is such a different deck from Burn that it kind of makes it difficult to sideboard for both. You can't really like have one card that does everything for the matchups, especially out of these colors. You could definitely go like, if you're in white, you can go Auriok Champion. You can have like Burnt and Forge Tender to some degree. And those like cards are, all the protection from red cards are pretty A-okay, especially the ones that gain life. But in these colors, in black, red, and green, there's not really a card that overlaps between sideboard cards that are great against Burn and then sideboard cards that are great against Prowess. Big money for the champ. Appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in, man. Hope you're having a good night. We are out here just playing some Jund with some of the new Modern Horizons 2 cards. I think I'm supposed to keep this off the back of Collector Brutality, and Liliana is still quite powerful in this matchup. Also, Fury, as we mentioned before, can dodge Eidolon's ability, so, you know, we could have an interesting game here. I think I'm supposed to lead on the fetch land, probably grabbing basic Swamp if they choose to attack me with a Goblin Guide. I'm going to fetch in response to the trigger because I do not want to draw my basic Swamp off the Goblin Guide trigger. Dash Monkey. I don't think this turn is a Dash Monkey turn. It's possible you're right. It's possible we're supposed to just get in our 2 damage while we can. But the thing is like the cards that I want to hit off their deck at this particular point are like Lightning Helix and things like that. And we can't currently cast a Lightning Helix off their deck anyways. There are games where you can get Lightning Helix off their deck and it's just like absurd. But I think this turn is... Yeah, but I don't really want to fetch Shock too much this turn if I can avoid it. All right, you guys want a Dash Monkey? I'm in. I'll listen to chat. We'll do Dash Monkey. Probably grabbing Stomping Ground here. Already have the second black source, so. Also, the treasure gives us a black source, so. Okay, they found a mountain off the top of their deck. Okay, that's an Eidolon. I think given that we drew a Bloodbraid Elf, I am going to go ahead and evoke this Fury. And then just discard the Monkey. I just want to save as much life as I possibly can. We're gonna shock this into play because otherwise I don't have any way to actually cast the Bloodbraid. And then I'm gonna plus probably just discarding this Collector Brutality. Obviously it's like Collector Brutality is a pretty powerful spell, but no basic mountain would have made me pull back on my decision, lol. Yeah, I mean, this deck, I don't think you can really play a basic mountain. So, you know, it's definitely an interesting mana base for sure. So, it probably needs a little bit of tuning, but where are we going? Okay, at the Lily. This is huge for us. Like, if they just want to point some damage at the Lily and try and take it off the table, that seems pretty good for us. Question is here, are we pushing the Swift Spear, or are we trying to line up Bloodbraid Elf next turn? I think I want to push this and try and leave the Liliana in play for a turn. They wanted to get it off the table, so that means that their hand's probably pretty good. So I'm going to try and just get some value. Kolaghan's Command's pretty solid draw. I'm going to go ahead and go return my Fury to my hand. You discard a card. And then make them discard a card with the Liliana. And then we're going to discard the Fury here. And we'll keep the Bloodbraid in our hand again. They discarded a land. And I'm feeling pretty good. We are at 14 with a Liliana on 2. So if they play out an Eidolon, we just get to minus the Liliana. Land? Land. Probably the best land too, aside from like drawing exactly basic forest. Okay, just gonna cast Tourach. Pretty good here because Tourach does get pumped from Liliana discarding cards out of my opponent's hand. Feels like we're probably going to take this one, so we do have to win a game 3 on the play. For what it's worth, Tourach can't be Lightning Helixed, which could possibly come up in this match. My opponent has conceded from the game. No changes, I don't think. Whew. My opponent has begun the game with 7 cards in their hand. I'm probably not supposed to keep this, right, chat? We're on the draw. We'll find a second land. Don't be a bitch. Hey, you know what? I like the way you think, Frosty. Keep it. Keep. I will say that I am generally on the side of keeping your sketchy 7-card hands over mulliganing them. I'm generally that guy. Okay, we found the fetch land. Question is, are we supposed to go fetch shock? I think so. There's just a lot of value in playing Ragavan on turn 1. It kind of puts them in a spot where they have to kill it. If they don't, then we get to start connecting with it. There's a possibility we find a lightning helix with it, and that would be ideal. What would be like really crazy here is if my opponent goes like Eidolon and okay, yeah, Searing Blaze is pretty bad for us, but we're gonna go Ignoble into Monkey. Just try and put some more things on the board. Obviously, this is worse for us if they continue to have multiple Searing Blaze effects, but I'm just really hoping that they don't. So we'll see. We need to draw like a... Actually, we really need to draw Lightning Helix off their deck. That would just be like the best draw here. Starting to get headphone hair. Hair sticking up in funny ways. Come on, dealer, one time. Okay. Ah, wow. The one time we drew a basic land. Color me upset, chat. But yeah, no, it would have been ideal if we had found a probably supposed to probably not supposed to attack here. Hold up decay. Hold up decay. Would have been ideal if we had found a Helix off their deck. But not gonna get that this game. Is this a okay, Skullcrack you? We need to find a Collective Brutality here. Could die this turn. They can have 4 damage into 3. So this turn, I think I am going to just decay the Eidolon. I really don't want to fetch if I don't have to. I was not going to decay the Eidolon if they pointed the damage at the Wrenn and Six, but or if they attacked the Wrenn and Six rather. Just holding these lands because if we draw a Collective Brutality, I would like to start recycling them with Wrenn and Six's retraceability. If we get to that point in the game. But my opponent is drawing very live. We had double monkey and they killed both the monkeys, so I guess that's what we were hoping to capitalize on, and they just had the answers for the monkeys. Skullcrack you. Okay, my opponent's out of hand. It has to be land. Oh. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I didn't build my sideboard to beat burn. There's like a couple cards you can bring in that matchup to like help that, but that's overall a pretty rough matchup, I would say. It's part of the reason why I do like the Stoneforge deck, because if you do get to that point in the game, you have a lot of inevitability with the 4 copies of Stoneforge Mystic. You just get to go grab Batterskull and start equipping it on big stuff, and yeah, you just kind of walk away with the game that way. I'll keep this hand. We're gonna bottom one of the Ignoble Hierarchs. Interesting. Grove of the Burn Willows, Hardened Scales. So I think with this hand, I know Monkey is generally what I want to lead on, but I think with this hand specifically, I am going to lead on Ignoble Hierarch. There's just a lot of really powerful 3 and 4 mana spells in my hand, and I would rather guarantee that I'm going to have the mana for turns 2 and 3, rather than like just fingers crossed hope that I get in with a Monkey. Yeah, this turn we get to go Liliana. Can't grab Blood Crypt with the first fetch land because we have to play Ignoble Hierarch. Okay, uptick, each player discards. We're gonna discard this Tourach. Hey, Nitpicking Nerds, thanks for the follow, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in. Feel like the deck wants 4 Blackleaf Cliffs. I mean, the thing is like, I actually disagree with you. I don't really think this deck wants 4 Blackleaf Cliffs. I think if you're gonna play a fast land, it's arguable that you want Copperline Gorge, because your 1 mana spells are Ragavan, Lightning Bolt, Ignoble Hierarch, and Fatal Push. So the only black spell that you have on 1 that you want to cast is Fatal Push, which is why I went for a more heavy fetch land based, because generally speaking, the fast lands are just not going to be good enough. Like, yes, Blackleaf Cliffs. And the thing is like, Blackleaf Cliffs serves the purpose of giving you black mana for your 2 and 3 mana spells on Dauthi, Liliana, and Tourach. So the deck is very black heavy. So, you know, it's hard to build a mana base for this deck, and I'm not sure what the correct way to do it is, but I don't think the answer is 4 Blackleaf Cliffs. There is not any hand hate in this list. This is not, so for clarification, we kind of went over this whenever I first, let me go ahead and finish my play. I'll explain it here in just a second. I think this turn we're going to shatter an artifact, deal 2 damage. So which artifact I want to shatter is kind of up for debate. I think I'm just going to kill the 2 in play. Could also shatter the animation module. I'm going to do the 2 in play, but not entirely sure that this is correct. Yeah, so that's the main so that's the problem, right? Is like if you want to play Copperline Gorge, it's super awkward with Dauthi Voidwalker specifically. You can get away with it if you're just like focusing on Liliana and Tourach as your like triple black, double black spells. That is part of the reason why there's 1 Twilight Mire in this deck, because I did want to filter the forest into double black. And this here is going to help us slightly get 4 black mana. We don't need it here, but you know, you could certainly find a spot where this is going to filter your mana a little bit. Don't need to kick Tourach. Abrupt Decay is fine. We can Ragavan. So I think I'm gonna play Ragavan, hold up Abrupt Decay. And I don't think I'm gonna activate Liliana's ability. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna activate Liliana's ability. I think the solution is to cut Ignoble instead of muddling the mana. You already lean so hard on the curve, and it's pretty lame to cascade hit. I agree that it is a lame cascade hit, but it just makes your why not dash, because there's a construct coming into play, and I do not want to trade with the construct. I think I'd rather clean up my opponent's construct by Abrupt Decaying them and Liliana edicting them, and then dashing next turn. This turn I specifically do want to Abrupt Decay my opponent's plays. There is a Walking Ballista. This thing's gonna have 2 counters on it, and it's gonna be able to eat my... Jinkola makes an interesting point. There's only 4 Ignoble Hierarchs, and Inquisition is a lamer cascade. I think I agree with that assessment. So... What am I supposed to Abrupt Decay here? Do I Abrupt Decay the Hardened Scales because it's their best permanent? Do I Abrupt Decay the Construct because it's the biggest permanent? I think the answer is to Abrupt Decay the Hardened Scales. Although, Construct is pretty awkward here. Really wanted to be able to edict with this Liliana, but I don't think I'm going to get an opportunity to do so. Hardened Scales already did its job. I mean, I agree. It's definitely a rough spot for sure. I mean, well, okay, so if you Abrupt Decay the Hardened Scales right there, it means this enters as a 1/1. So if they want to kill one of my creatures, if they want to kill the monkey, they have to trade the ballista for it. So that's my thinking mostly. And now they just get to leave this ballista in play. So I am going to edict them and then edict them again. And then Liliana, or this is likely going to die. We're going to be on a board of, well, okay, all right. Same game plan here. Just there we go. Liliana minus edict you. Probably wanted the Liliana if I had to guess. Yeah. Really hoping my opponent kept that permanent in their hand, whatever it was. I think I want to hold up Abrupt Decay this turn. Yep, don't care much about Welding Jar. R.I.P. Monka. I know. Poor monkey. He just wanted to live a long, prosperous life. A Bloodbraid! You never did me wrong. And to Dauthi. Gorilla Shaman in the board would be nuts. I mean, you know what would be even more nuts than Gorilla Shaman? Collector Ouphe. I think you're asking your deck for a lot if you want Gorilla Shaman to be good. Gorilla Shaman is good in Pauper and in Eternal formats because Gorilla Shaman blows up boxes and it blows up artifact lands. And the artifact lands that are now legal in Modern, it is no longer good in Pauper. Well, I believe that assessment. I've never played Pauper. I just, I know that it was good in Pauper. That's the only thing I knew. So take that as you will. Okay, so attack for 4. Hold this back to block. Or attack for 6. Let them modular. Probably attack for 4. Don't let them modular. I guess they get to like... Yeah, they get to blow this up if they want to anyways. So, not a huge deal. Yeah, I believe this. I believe the assessment that it's no longer good in Pauper, but the reason it was good in Pauper and the reason it was good in Eternal formats in Vintage specifically is because it blows up Moxes and it blows up artifact lands for 1 mana. It costs you 1 mana to do that. In this format, the artifact lands that are legal in the format are indestructible, for one thing. And so you're never going to blow up an artifact land with it unless you liquid metal coating it. And at that point, you're going deep. You're going into the tank. I built a deck, and trust me, I've done that. I did that like 2 days ago. So, I'll go deep with you, but it's not good. I tried it. It's not good. Second copy of Dauthi. Feels like a game where we're just going to attack my opponent for 4 and then 6 and then 6 again and then they're going to die. Because for some reason this card has Shadow. Hey, graft. Come on. You know you want to. Graft. Such a weird land. I mean, I know it's a future sight card, so like it's supposed to be weird, but smack ya. Oh, that's kind of cute. Oh, and now you get to make a servo? The combos, chat. How do I ever beat this? Oh, I'm moving the counters here. So you may move a +1/+1 counter from this land onto it. It's so weird. I've never seen it come up where it like you're only gonna get 1. You only get to move 1. You know what I mean? Are we grafting again? I'm dead to Ink Moth? Am I? I haven't been counting, so I might be. He goes animate Ink Moth. I might be dead to that. I'm gonna start sacking a bunch of creatures into these Dauthis. I don't think I was dead to Ink Moth, but it was like 7 damage or something like that. So like I mean, he has to, there's no way, he doesn't have any like sack outlet in play is a problem. I mean, like now he has the Goblin Bombardment, so there is that. No. What? Destroy target artifact you control. I'm not sure how you see lethal, but I don't think I was dead this turn. At least not by the Ink Moth line. I'm probably dead now that he's drawn this Goblin Bombardment, though. Yeah, but I don't think it's like, I still don't think it's enough. Yeah, it was like 7 infect. I mean, it looked close. I mean, it was like about 7, I think is what my math it was whenever I did quick maths. But I don't think I was dead. Just gonna go ahead and fetch here just to get an extra land out of my deck. I would like to lightning bolt you, sir. It's close. Close. You got close. Well, I believe you, big money for the champ. If it was lethal, I believe you. That's fine. My opponent didn't see it, they died. So that's all that matters. Probably don't want Dauthi in this matchup. It does attack through their tiny creatures, which is kind of cool. But I think the game plan is going to be blow up all of their permanents. Every single one of them. Tourach doesn't seem that great either. They kind of dump their hand into play, so it doesn't affect that much there. It was like these 7 out, these 7 in. These cards play to the board a little bit better. This is becoming a pattern. Maybe these cards are not good enough. I don't know. It's hard to say. Latvia is just rancid against the Hangerback Walker deck. I mean, like, I guess if you like, if we're on the game plan of like they're gonna have Hangerback Walker every time, but like most of our cards are pretty rancid against Hangerback Walker, right? You know. I think I'll bottom a Blood Crypt and just fetch Shock and Blood Crypt on one. Oh my god, Dustin. Slow your roll, buddy. Has so many subs from my boy Dustin. He's been killing it out here, boys. Killing it. Cut those Liliana, put back in here. Oh, never mind, Grist. I don't understand what that means, but I'm sure it means something to you. That's all that matters. Hey, that's a good card. Kill the Wasp. This card's been pretty powerful so far, but it's mostly just annoying, kind of like a bug, you know? Kind of annoying like a mosquito. Not annoying like a, you know, like a card that keeps, not like annoying like an Uro that keeps coming back. It's annoying like a mosquito that you just got to swat it once, but it keeps showing up in weird places. So you just swat it. You know what I mean, chat? I think we ran down tick on the servo, just to kind of keep the board clear, and then we're gonna Abrupt Decay one of these permanents. Question is which one? And play out my monkey. Dustin. It does seem kind of like a value deck. Yeah, I agree. Possibly the module is the best permanent. New season of Warzone just hit, so when you get off, don't forget to do the 30 gig update. All right, dude. Appreciate the heads up. I'll be sure to do an update. Darth Wu, I don't believe I have that plugin installed at this time. I've been trying to get a bunch of my plugins installed, and I'm having trouble figuring it out. So if anybody has any insight on how to get MTG bot on your stream, I would appreciate it. What do I do in response to this Hangerback Walker? Because they'll let it resolve. We decay the Hardened Scales. We can minus the Wrenn and Six on the Hangerback Walker. The counter moves to the Ozolith. We minus the Liliana to edict the Stopter. I think the answer is Hardened Scales. I agree. And then I think I'm just going to trade both of my Planeswalker abilities here for this, like both halves of this Hangerback Walker. Went through that last week, messaged me on Facebook. All right, dude, I appreciate it. I'll hit you up. Minus here. Again, just trying to keep the board clear. I don't hate it. I'll take a Shadow Spear. Go back in time and leave in your Dauthis. Why do you think that? Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. Dauthi would be pretty good against Hangerback Walker here. Okay, I'm in for that. I'm in for that. I did not think about that interaction specifically. It also would be pretty good against Arcbound Ravager. You make a fair point, so possibly need to reevaluate that one. No, chat, I didn't fetch double red. Fluffy Wolf 2, appreciate the raid, man. Hope you guys all had a good stream at Fluffy Wolf stream. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We are just about to finish up our Modern League here. We're in game 2 against a looks like an animation module sort of you know, grindy deck. They're not really playing like aggressive Hardened Scale stuff. It's just kind of a grindy animation module deck. So it's an interesting take from my opponent. Someone who doesn't fetch red, unraid. Yeah, I know. My bad, dude. I made a mistake. And I used my treasure last turn to play the Shadow Spear out. I should have just shocked in the Overgrown Tomb. This is all just going sideways, guys. Probably supposed to crack my Peatland. We'll start there. I feel like I've seen this movie before, chat. I think we are discarding Peatland to this ability. And I agree, we are definitely equipping to the monkey. I do not think we are attacking, though. Wrenn and Six is a solid draw. Lets us start rebuying Peatlands, and it also lets me get my double red. It's okay. Okay. I fixed my error. Tiger Killer OG, thanks for following, man. Appreciate the follow. Thanks for tuning in. Hope your Warzone games are going good lately. Gonna go ahead and grab a tapped Stomping Ground. I'm not going to activate the Liliana ability this turn. I I did consider just discarding the fetch land to the Liliana ability just to get it up on loyalty, but I think this turn I'd rather just be on this line here. Oh my god, this is disgusting. This is disgusting, chat. I kind of forgot they got to do this. This is pretty absurd here. Dear Lord, this Ravager. Yeah, Ravager looked pretty good here. I kind of wondered why he played the land out, but I was like, I guess he's just playing around Liliana uptick, but nope, he just up and up and up and up. Interesting. Is this an artifact? Oh, it is an artifact. I still think we're in okay shape here. Nah, it's not that big of a deal. We have the Liliana in play. We just get to sweep all the servos, and then, like, hopefully they're just left with a Ravager here. Yeah, this is like... Well, the Hangerback Walker is definitely a little bit awkward. But that's a good one, chat. Hey, Dustin. Appreciate the subscription, brother. You don't have to do all that, but I appreciate that you did. So we're gonna go Fury. One. I guess the other damage doesn't really matter. Fury upstairs is not an option. Yeah, I agree that going like a kill Hangerback Walker with the Kolaghan's command and picking up a Ragavan is a little bit spewy just to try and get the Fury down and sweep the board. Although it does mean we get to use the Liliana ability, but yeah, it would leave us with no cards in hand, and doing it this way, at least this turn, we now get to basically chump block with this Fury in front of the Arcbound Ravager, and then go shatter the Ravager. Are we just dead? What did he do? Did he put like 14 counters on this Thopter? Oh, we're dead. Okay, because the Ozolith, yeah, the Ozolith gets the counters too. Wow, okay. Well, that one's on me, chat. Didn't see that line. That's okay. We should be able to win this game 3. We didn't see a ton of artifact hate in that second game, so hopefully we get a little bit more here in the third game. I do feel like this matchup's probably in our favor. My opponent's doing a lot of stuff that I am not like super used to. As far as like, I mean, I've seen Hardened Scales deck do their thing. I've seen Animation Module like in those decks, but like, should bring back in Dauthi. You're probably right. Probably right. I would if I could, but I'm past the point where I can. But solid point. I should have done that. Jackson Benny, I didn't see your comment earlier. I have not tried Valky with the monkey yet. Seems like an interesting take. It could definitely be an interesting deck. I know that Aspiring Spike is working on like a Miracles list that's playing Valky, which seems like an interesting take on this particular metagame. I think that could be an efficient and interesting way to build around Valky right now, but I have not personally built around Valky in this metagame yet. Okay, Hardened Scales. Play my fetch land, go grab a tap land, pick up the land. Probably just gonna go ahead and bolt this just to get it off the board. Again, we're gonna keep the board as clear as possible. We will go ahead and deploy our Liliana and uptick. I know somebody mentioned that we should probably board out Liliana's in exchange for Dauthi, but you know, she's gonna end up being pretty good this game, so at least there's that. At least it's not like a super punishment. Chris, I didn't see your follow a minute ago, but I appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in. Whoo-wee. Yeah, probably gonna die to that one. I need to find a Fury to beat the flood of Thopters. Well, a moment ago I said that Liliana was going to be pretty good this game. I immediately would like to retract my statement and say that Dauthi... Hey, yeah, hey, listen, we don't have to talk about it. We don't have to talk about it. I'm sorry, chat. Yeah, no, we definitely should have Dauthis in the main right now. And it would look much, much better on this board against this Hangerback Walker. So we are definitely getting punished for our line that I took a moment ago. If they attack the Hangerback Walker, I believe this one's kind of interesting. Am I supposed to block this? Or do I just not care? I think I'm just going to take the damage, or let the Liliana die, rather. Okay, we're going to retrace everything. Bolt the Arcbound Ravager. Try and get him with the Ragavan. You may be correct. It may be their face is like just the most correct target here. But I'm gonna keep pointing it at their stuff here. I gotta go sack 2 Thopters here. I'm gonna attack with the Ragavan. They want to trade with a Thopter, that's fine. Yeah, this is like super awkward. So if I bolt the Ravager, they get to go sack, and then I think I just have to let them go to combat because I'm just dead here. I'm just dead either way. Dead either way. I don't think it matters too much. Obviously, if we have Dauthi here, this game is very, very different. So definitely punished for how we sideboarded there. Didn't see very much like in terms of artifact hate. Turn to game. Is it gonna let me draw my card? No. Yeah, I was not really getting anywhere with that game. So we went 3-2. We had pretty good, solid first 3 games. Then we lost the last 2. I'll take the last one specifically on how we boarded. What did we play against in round 4? What did we lose to in round 4? Burn, right? Yeah, okay, so we did, like, our sideboard's not built for burn. Our sideboard is built to beat the affinity deck, so I probably should have won against the affinity deck, and I did not. Captain Clutch, appreciate the follow, man. Hope your Call of Duty games are going good lately with Destin. And thanks for tuning in, man. So, okay, I'll go over the deck idea here real quick for everybody who's like tuning in somewhat late on the stream. We went over this before the league started, but basically the thoughts on this deck were to play a discardless based Jund deck that just tries to play more to the board because it feels like the metagame is shifting more towards that. There are a lot more Urza Sagas decks, which make massive constructs. There's Asmora decks, which play to the board. There's Affinity decks that play to the board. There's, you know, to some degree, these Monkey Stoneblade decks that I built that is, you know, people are playing, but there's not a ton of people playing the Monkey Stoneblade decks because, let me see if I can find the list here. Not a ton of people playing lists like this right now because of how expensive the Monkey is. So there's not a ton of people playing with the Monkey on Magic Online. There's a lot more like green-black Asmora decks. There's, you know, the blue-red spells decks, that sort of thing. Those decks are a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to build on Magic Online. So there's a lot more of them. Same goes for Affinity. Affinity is a little bit cheaper, so it's a little bit easier to build. With the exception of Urza Saga, I think Urza Saga is one of the more expensive cards right now. I don't actually know what the price of it is, but in any case, yeah, the idea was to play more to the board. Play these 8 1-mana accelerants and just like focus on your planeswalkers and your Bloodbraid Elves. And like, it seemed pretty good. I was pretty impressed. There's a couple minor changes that I would like to make. I really want to make our burn matchup better. And not like, I mean, I wanted something that would dual purpose for burn and prowess, and I don't think the answer is Weather the Storm, but if you do go the route of Weather the Storm, your burn matchup gets a lot better. But in any case, cards that I was impressed with in this matchup, or in this deck, one thing I will note, I am probably going to be editing the mana base in some way or another. I will state that I probably want to, I didn't actually think about this until somewhat recently. I probably want to be playing the all types lands, so Urborg and Yavimaya. That just kind of seems like it probably helps with the mana a little bit. Maybe not Yavimaya. I don't know. It's a little like tough because like you don't really want to play Urborg and Yavimaya in your deck that wants to play 1-mana removal spells or 1-mana red spells rather. So it's a little bit awkward there. So it's gonna be tough to build the mana base correctly in this deck. So there'll be a couple iterations where I sort of go back and forth on the mana base on this deck. I'm not sure